Hello everyone. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to make peppermint goat's milk soap, and I've got all my supplies laid out ready to go. I've made it before, but I've never videoed it, so I'm going to see how this is going to work, and I'll edit it and see if I can get it for anyone else that's interested in making their own soap. I like making my own soap. I don't like to buy it from the store. First of all, there's so much in it that you don't need, that's bad for you. And then on top of that, the soap that you buy at the store doesn't last very long, and it's done that way for a reason. They want you to buy, come back and buy more soap really, really quick. So I don't like buying store-bought soap. I haven't bought store-bought soap in a long time. I always make my soap. One of my favorites is peppermint goat's milk soap. So I've got in here, I've already got 33.6 ounces of olive oil. That's my base oil. And I use olive oil because of the soothing qualities that it has. So to that, in the crock pot, because this is going to be a hot process soap, where it doesn't have to cure. Most of the time when you do cold process soap, it has to cure for 4 to 6 weeks. Well, I get in a hurry. And besides, I have a sale for this. So I'm going to go ahead and make it hot process so it doesn't have to cure. So I'm going to add 23.52 ounces of coconut oil to it. And I put the coconut oil in there because it gives the bar stability, plus the qualities that the coconut oil adds to it. So let me see if I can get this in here without splashing it on me. It's cold here today, so it's kind of tough, but I'll get it. Now this crock pot is strictly for soap making. Once you make soap in it, you don't want to use it for anything else. All of these utensils are strictly for soap making. When I get done with them, I clean them up and store them for nothing but soap making. So then I've got the coconut oil in there, and then I'm going to put 10.08 ounces of castor oil. Now the reason I put castor oil in my soap is I like my soap to bubble. Whenever I use my soap, I like to have suds, and it adds a softness to the bar, but it also makes it bubble. And it's good for your skin. So I like putting castor oil in my soap. I like to have lots of bubbles. Okay. So this is what it looks like with the coconut oil and the castor oil added to it. So the crock pot is on warm, and I'm making a goat's milk soap, so my temperature has to be kept low because I don't want my milk to scorch. So this is going to melt. I need to get it all melted and the temperature remain low, so that's going to take a minute. which that's okay. I'll bring you back as we go. This is the lye water. This lye water is very strong because I've cut the water, which I use bottled water in my soap. I don't use water from the tap. But I've cut the water in half so I can replace half of the water with the goat's milk, which is here. Now this is what's called superfats, and that will be added to the soap after it's done cooking. And the reason for the superfats, this is, I've got 3 ounces of extra virgin olive oil, and I only use the organic cold pressed olive oil, because this is going to be added after the soap is finished cooking, so I want the best for the benefits. And then I've got 3 ounces of almond oil in there. I've got vitamin E oil, and I've got shea butter and glycerin. These are all, you know, makes it feel really good to your skin. So this I'm going to melt very slowly, but it'll be added after the soap is finished cooking. Okay, so I'm letting the coconut oil melt and all this get melted really good, and I need to check the temperature of the lye because the lye needs to be really cool so it doesn't burn my milk. So I'm going to put this temperature gauge in here so I can see what temperature is on the lye, because when you mix it up it gets really, really, really hot. So right now we're up to 105, which is good. 106. Looks like it's going to stay at 107, which is good. By the time the coconut oil gets melted, the lye will have cooled some more, and then I'll add it to my oil in the crock pot. But I'll let this all get melted and I'll bring you back. Okay, we're back. So it looks like all of the oil that I've got in here, the coconut oil and all that, has melted really good. So it's completely clear. So what I'm going to do now, because, you know, I had my grandkids here, my 2 grandsons here for the weekend, so I couldn't do any of the soap making while they were here because lye is very caustic. It's very dangerous, and if I make a mistake and splash it and it gets on one of my grandkids, I would never forgive myself, ever. So I waited until they went home today before I started this soap making venture. So I've got the oil completely clear, and I'm going to add the lye water, but I was stirring it with my metal spoon that I use strictly for soap making. But before I pour the lye water in there, which until the lye water is saponified, lye is very dangerous and it can burn if it splashes on your skin or anything like that. So I'm very careful. And this container, this sophisticated container that I have, is repurposed, and it is strictly used for lye water. That's it. Nothing else goes in it. So I'm going to take a wooden spoon and pour my lye water in here and mix with my wooden spoon until it incorporates really good in there, because I don't want my metal spoon in there in contact with the lye. So I'll see if I can position the camera so you can see what it looks like, and I'll bring you back. Okay, so you can see the oil is completely clear, So I'm going to, I'm kind of OCD about getting it anywhere on anything. So I'm going to take this lye water and I'm going to pour it in here very slowly. Okay, I'm going to take my wooden spoon. I'm going to give it a stir. I want it to mix up really well. What I'm doing is trying to give this lye water a chance to get surrounded by the oil before I pour my milk in here. Because I need to put my stick blender in here. My stick blender is metal. So I'm going to give it a second or two. It's really fascinating to me, the whole process of making soap. And goat's milk soap is particularly difficult because you burn your milk if your temperature is too high. So I'm going to pour my milk. My spoon, give it a stir. I'm trying to keep it, the temperature has to be low, but I like a light soap, so I'm trying to keep it as light colored as possible. I mean, it'll still have a yellow tint to it because of the oil, but I want it to be as light as possible. All right. See if I can do this with one hand now. Gee whizzers. Come to trace. Trace is where it starts saponifying the lye, and it's freaking cool. Okay, so I'm going to put the lid on this. Now that's what it looks like. Okay, so I've got everything in here. This one needs to be washed. And my milk container. And while I'm waiting on this to finish, what the cooking does, it takes the place of the processing that it happens while it's curing. That's why you call it hot process. But these are my molds. I have 3, and they're 3.5 inches wide, they're 2.5 inches deep, and they're 8 inches long. So I like a really chunky bar soap. So I'll get, out of each one of these, I'll get 8 bars of soap. So one of them is already sold, and then I want to have some for myself, and then some to give away as gifts. So while I'm waiting on this to process, which is going to take about 2.5 to 3 hours for the saponification process to complete, because you don't want any lye left active in your soap. And while I'm waiting on this to cook, the super fats, I'm going to heat very slowly so I can melt the shea butter. And what's important about the super fats is they're going to be added after the cook process is done. So all of the qualities of the super fats will be in the soap without being saponified. They'll be incorporated into the soap with the fragrance, which is, in this case, peppermint. So it's pretty interesting, and it makes a wonderful, wonderful soap. It feels really good, bubbles really good, and it's refreshing. And I really, really, really like it. So I will see if I can bring you back for progress later on. Okay, so I got my shea butter and almond oil and all that melted. So the first time I made this soap, I got to this stage and I was like, oh my goodness, my soap is ruined. It got really, really hard. And I thought I have ruined my soap, but it's not ruined. It's just separated. And what I'm going to do is put my stick blender in here and re-emulsify it and mix it back up and let it keep processing. But oh my goodness, I just thought I'd show you, because I've made other flavors of goat milk, other fragrances with goat's milk soap, and when I get to this stage, I'm like, oh my god, it's ruined. But it's not. It's not. So I just figured I'd show you and let you know what it looks like. All right, we are back. It has been a long afternoon, but my soap has cooked for 3 solid hours. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the super fats to the soap because it's finished. So I've got them all melted. And I'm going to start incorporating all this good stuff into the soap. Looks like a really gunky mess right now, but that's okay. I'm also trying to cool it down before I add my peppermint to it, because if it's too hot, then it'll do what's called flash, and it'll basically burn the peppermint up where there's no fragrance. Alright, so I'm going to let it cool for a few minutes, then I'll bring you back when I add the peppermint to it. Alright, so I think I'm ready to add the peppermint. It's still kind of warm, but it's not very warm, so I'm going to go ahead and add my peppermint. So I'm going to add a lot of peppermint to this because I like a strong scent. In the soap. And I'm making 3 molds, so it's a lot of soap. Ooh, almost dropped it. Dang it. I knew I was going to do that. That's strong. Alright, so I'm going to get this mixed up. So I'm going to get this mixed up and I'll bring you back when I put it in the mold. Alright, so I started putting my soap in the mold, and as it was cooling it started setting up on me, so I had to get a move on, do it pretty quick. So I've got the soap in the mold and it's not as light as I like. It's kind of a creamy color, but that's okay. And I used to do colors, you know, put colors in my soap, but I don't do that anymore because it's unnecessary. But the peppermint fragrance is permeating throughout the room, so my eyes are watering just a little bit. So I'm going to let this set overnight, and tomorrow when it finishes setting, I'll bring you back when I cut the bars. But this is what it looks like, so this is where it's going to live until it finishes setting. So we'll see how it turns out. Hopefully it'll be good.